Okay, so I think we can get going. So yeah, I think we've obviously gone through some theory and quite a few sessions of understanding how the mind works, with some quite cool models and drawings and ups and downs, and also understanding stress and the impact it has, and then obviously substance abuse and the quite scary irreversible damage that you spoke about. So yeah, and then today, what's going to be nice is we're going to be a little bit more on the practical side, as per the sort of headline for today, which is a practical experience in deep relaxation therapy. So deep relaxation therapy sounds pretty interesting, and especially as we've been chatting about the stresses of working virtually, I guess this is a useful skill to have. So Tom, go for it. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Pete. So one is about, the audience now has about 2 minutes to prepare yourself and get your environment ready before we begin this relaxation exercise. So I'm going to ask you, if you haven't already done it, to stick a do not disturb post-it on your door, close the door, get yourself into a secluded, safe space, and we're going to try and make this as practical as we possibly can. It's also a great idea just to put your phone into flight mode for a little bit. Nobody will really need to get hold of you for the next half hour or so. And also on your computer, there's a little focus mode. You can flick your computer into focus mode just to make sure that there are no intrusive sounds that will come and disturb you as we go through this. I don't know how you are feeling within yourself. If you're a bit cold, you may want to just drape a blanket over your legs, or plug in a headset if you like. Today, since we've already in the past gone through proving all the neurological basis for what we're doing today, there's no need for you to watch anything on your screen. This is about sound and a sound experience only. So all of those things are going to just help you just as you settle yourself down. Pete, what I've also sort of designed is that this is going to be a session that one can listen to again and again. And these are the sort of basics that one would need just to prepare oneself for this session, if you do listen to it over again in the future. One thing, just as a little bit of a warning, because it puts one into a sort of slightly daydreaming state, it wouldn't be appropriate to listen to this again sometime in the future if you're operating machinery or needing to drive somewhere. Don't listen to it in the car, is what I'm saying. So let's start off then by just settling yourself down in your chair as comfortably as you can, but not that comfortably to encourage yourself to fall asleep, yet relaxed enough to let yourself get into a little bit of a daydreaming state. There is a slight chance that technology could let us down, just as it might have done just in the beginning of this, and that you might lose the sound of my voice. If that happens, some part of you will sense that the link has dropped, and it will slowly bring you out of your relaxed state. The worst thing to happen to you today is that you nod off a little and fall asleep, but you'll agree that it's hardly a major concern at all. If you happen to nod off and lose track of what I'm saying, you'll soon find yourself awakening normally, feeling refreshed and ready to get on with the day, which, after all, is exactly what we're hoping to achieve, is it not? I guess that you are already a bit wound up and involved in this day's activity. That is normal. Stop for a moment and notice the randomness of your thoughts as they come and go in your mind. Allow your mind to stay this way, because wrestling with your thoughts to try to silence them has no benefit at all. You will agree that we can do much, much more in the world of fantasy than we could ever do in the world of reality. In our private, magical fantasy world, we can defy the laws of nature, travel back and forth in time, and in that world of imagination, we can go to make-believe places, and you can give yourself a chance to meet inspirational people that you otherwise couldn't meet in the rigid world of reality. In other words, imagine And in other words, imagination and fantasy give you unlimited freedom to be whatever you want to be and to have the experiences you otherwise wouldn't have. If you haven't already intuitively done so, you may wish to let your eyes close, because this has a huge advantage by shutting out a lot of the noise that reaches your brain through this, the primary one of your 5 senses. Hopefully, since you are private and alone in this comfortable space of yours, there's no risk of others seeing you as you scrunch up your face for a moment. I truly mean it. Do it now. Scrunch up your face really hard for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then allow all the muscles of your face to fully relax. I know that I'm being videoed, so I'm going to take the risk, and I'm going to do that right now for myself. It's quite a nice exercise. Suddenly, all those tiny muscles feel so loose. Notice how amazing this feels. It's just like a loose elastic band dangling off the end of your finger. Because you can feel how well this exercise works for the muscles of your face, try it on some of the other muscles too. Slowly lift your shoulders to your ears and scrunch them up to your neck and shoulders just for a few seconds before letting them drop down again, more relaxed than they ever were before. But why stop here? Now take a few seconds to clench both fists before letting them relax. Do it now. Do it really hard. Clench those fists, hold them tight for a bit, and then allow them to relax. Focus your attention then on the muscles of your buttocks. Pull those muscles in really tight. Hold them there. Clench the muscles of your buttocks again for about 3 to 5 seconds before letting them relax. You can also scrunch up the calf muscles by raising your toes above your heels. Do it now. Hold them, stretch those muscles, and relax them. Lastly, scrunch up your toes by curling them down as far as you can, as if you could touch the soles of your feet with your toes. Notice that that's already a whole lot better. We haven't really done much, but in this very short time, notice how amazing that already feels. So far, what you have already done is enough to nudge your body into a state of complete relaxation, because the more you allow your body to relax, the more your body will want to relax. It's a self-perpetuating cycle, taking you deeper and deeper into this amazing state of deep relaxation. Your next point of focus is your breath. Take a few moments just to notice how it works. Your diaphragm drops, your chest expands, air gets drawn in through your nostrils or your mouth to fill your lungs. There's a tiny pause. Your diaphragm rises as your chest collapses, and the air in your body escapes through your nose or your mouth. It's your rhythm of life that began on the day of your birth, and which will stay with you for the rest of your life. It's a reflex we seldom focus upon, and it happens faithfully, seldom entering into your conscious awareness. Just for a short while, and without changing the natural rhythm of your breath, try not to let a single breath go by without noticing it. Notice how your body moves when you breathe in and out. Notice how the air moves past the tips of your nostrils or your lips as your breath enters and escapes. Let's be a little bit playful with our breath. Imagine that your breath is like a rubber wheel running on a nice, flat, smooth surface. Imagine that one half of the wheel is painted white, and it represents one part of your breath cycle, like, say, for instance, breathing in. The other half of the wheel is black and represents the other half of your breathing, like breathing out. Experiment now by playing with your breath. There are only 2 variables that you have to play with: the diameter of the wheel and the speed at which it travels. You could alter your breath by making it bigger. If I made my breath bigger and just exaggerate the sound of my breath, it would sound a little bit like this. It would go. That's a big, slow wheel. What we could also do, we could reduce the size of the wheel, turning the breath into sort of tiny rhythmical puffs of air. Again, if I exaggerate that breath just so that you can hear it, it would go a little bit like this. Remember also that you can change the wheel's speed at any time, making the wheel go faster or slower. So I could change that very big wheel, almost turning it into like the wheel of a steam train going up a very slight incline. And then it would be that sort of deep, slow, powerful breath. And it would sound a little bit like this. You might want to just play with some of that just on your own, just as I'm speaking. You could also make that small breath go very fast. This is a breath that takes a lot of practice, and it's called the breath of fire, by the way. And it starts off with a very sharp exhalation that goes like this, like you were blowing your nose. And then you pick that up, you go. You can make that breath go very fast. You can make it very slow. You can turn it into that breath of fire. You can turn it into that slow, powerful train wheel, steam train wheel going up that incline. Just play with your breath now for a bit and notice which configuration works best to encourage you to relax the most. One of those two configurations is going to, well, there are multiple configurations, but of those configurations, which one encourages you to relax the most? How would you know? Just notice that it induces a slight dizziness, a slight buzziness somewhere in your body. That's the configuration that works best. I like to take this breath cycle and carry it on for maybe about 5 or 10 minutes. We don't really have the time to extend it out that long in this little demo, but you can, when you're doing this, just pause this recording again and just carry on that breath for as long as it seems comfortable. Now, finally, let your awareness return to your thoughts. In the beginning of our meditation, we decided to let the thoughts be what they wanted to be. And now it's time to gain a little bit of control over your thoughts. We are all accustomed to dealing with numbers. We encounter them every day of our lives. Think of the numbers now that make up your own personal cell phone number. There are around 10 digits in the average phone number. Imagine that you could space those digits out a little by creating empty gaps between them. Think of the first digit of your phone number. Notice its shape. Can you remember the time when, as a child, you struggled to write the shape on a piece of paper? It took you many concerted attempts before you got it right, but you persisted until you mastered it. I bet that your attitude was to try and try again until you got it right. There's a certain sense of wonderment, happiness, and accomplishment in having mastered this simple task. The second digit in your phone number seems so far away to the right, separated by the still, tranquil gap that you've made between them. Indulge in the meaning of this gap and how it relates to your body and mind's relaxation. Gently nudge your mind away from the first digit by letting it drift away from that digit and feeling the tranquility and wonderment of that super relaxed state between the digits. Surrender for as long as you wish in that space between these digits of your phone numbers. Eventually, taking plenty of time to do so, you will run up against the shoreline of the next digit, where you are free to explore its shape and meaning in the context of all other numbers. If you catch yourself playing with the random thoughts, go back to the beginning of your phone number and gently begin the process again. See how far down that sequence of digits you can go before a random thought playfully interrupts you once again. Notice that then in this session of ours, we've dealt with body, the space around us, to make that a tranquil space, and we've turned our attention into relaxing mind. Breath is always there as an ally to help us go deeper and deeper into the state. Having employed just these very simple techniques, feel the relaxation that it brings to you right now. Feel how your body thrives on it and what it means to be in this relaxed state. Know also that you can return to the state of mind and body any time you choose. This is, after all, your default factory setting. I'm going to be quiet just for a few seconds, 10, 20 seconds. In this time, just indulge in this space. Allow yourself just to drift into a deeper and deeper being in whatever thoughts you need to be. But if your thoughts start to invade, just go back to your telephone number and be in that gap between the digits of each of the numbers of your phone number. Outside is the world in which we are engaged. It is beyond your closed door. That is the place where you may have to interact for the better part of your day in doing what it is you need to do. But what is nice and encouraging is to come back to the special place. And it's not so hard to find a place where you can actually be for a little while. Just closing the door, switching off the phone, centering your attention on your body, your breath, and your thoughts, and bringing yourself into this very, very deep state of relaxation. Now, without any haste, bring your attention back to your body. In particular, bring your attention to your toes. Just wiggle them a bit to have them send signals back to your brain. You can also do the same with your fingers. Let other sounds, besides the sound of my voice, slowly drift back into your ears. Then let light filter through your closed eyelids back into your eyes. And when you're ready, in your own good time, slowly opening up your eyes and taking a nice long stretch to sort of kind of plug everything back together again. This allows you just to prepare your body and mind to resume the rest of your day with joy, vigor, and a sense of easiness. Guys, this is it's a tiny technique. It's the starting point for something that with a little bit of practice just allows you to go into the state deeper and deeper each time you want to take this little gap from life itself. The more you do it, the easier it comes to you. It doesn't matter today if you've had a deep, profound experience or if it's been a little bit shallow and slightly fragmented. that makes no difference at all. Some of these little techniques take a little bit of time just to to be comfortable with the idea that we can surrender to this and to utilize it as a little bit of a tool. What I would like is to interact with you. And so you're welcome to interact with me on WhatsApp or by email, doesn't really matter, or whichever other space you feel comfortable. Tell me what works, what doesn't work, where you got a bit stuck, what was better, what may need to change for you. And I'm happy to put together a sound recording of this, since it doesn't need the visual component. I'm happy to do a sound recording of this at some stage in the future where we've tweaked this so that it can be there in a repository for you to use at any time you choose. As I say, please be careful not to use it if you need to stay focused, as it can just induce that sort of daydreaming state. And in those kind of moments, you might just need your full sense and faculties to be with you. Pete, back to you, my friend.
Thanks, Tom. That was very interesting. I found us doing some of the exercise, but I also wanted to make sure I was understanding it. So I think it would be better to practice it just on my own. I find this a question or a statement with a bit of a question in it, is that the breathing part was quite relaxing, although I can only get to probably, I don't know, not even 10, 15 breaths, and I start to, my mind wanders. So, and the phone number one, I didn't really try. I was doing the breathing. Is it one preferable to the other, or is it just whatever really gets you and works for you?
There's so much in what you say, Pete, and you know, we are so accustomed in our modern world to be vigilant and on the ball and alert all the time. And we bring the mind from the subconscious part of the mind into the forebrain all the time, and that's the place in which we live. And we're under siege half the time anyway. You know, living in this part of the world is not the easiest part of the world to live in, and we need to be extra vigilant maybe, and we're living in really troubled times. So not getting this right is not a train smash. This takes a little bit of, not a lot of practice, a little bit of practice just to surrender this active forebrain, not trying to understand how this works or what might work better than others, but just to surrender to it, because the more you can surrender to it, the more you can sort of fall into the state, the better the overall experience. And that's my advice to everyone, is don't worry so much about what works and what doesn't work, and don't try so much to try to do things. It's not about process, it's about surrender. And that's probably the most important advice I can give. It's not about process, it's not about getting the process right, it's about surrendering to it, floating off, just allowing yourself for a moment to be in that subconscious daydreamy state. Insofar as playing around with this, parts of it, I decided, instead of just focusing on one thing and trying to be with that as I usually would work with the client, I'd take one aspect of it and stretch that out and pad it out a lot more. I thought I'd add different elements. So there's a little bit of progressive body relaxation, the scrunching and holding the body tight and relaxing. That's something that you can decouple from this exercise. And it's something that I generally tend to do every night just before I go to sleep. I'm lying in bed on my back. I don't generally sleep on my back, but I start off by lying on my back. And then what I do is I go through that progressive body relaxation. There's some science behind that. If you can stress a muscle for a long time, the longer you can stress it, the more when you relax it, it collapses that muscle into a state of relaxation. Muscles can't hold the stress for too long. But even just 5 or 10 seconds is good enough. And as you go down through the body, just before you go to sleep, it usually helps one to sleep much, much better at night. So that's a part you can decouple. Another part you can decouple from this is the idea of playing with the breath. Breath is always present. You don't have to have a cell phone with an active app on it in order to get your attention going somewhere else. It's very nice. It's something you can actually even do in the car while you're driving in the traffic, is you can play with your breath. You can go into those different cycles of breath. Know that it is a reflex, but it's not like some of the deeper reflexes in the body, like the peristaltic movement of the bowels or something like that, that you have no control over at all. Well, let's hope you've got some control over it. But it's not like one of those deep reflexes. Breath is something that usually happens as a reflex. It happens off the radar, but from time to time we can bring it onto the radar, and it gives us something we can control. And there are those two variables. There's the diameter of the wheel and there's the speed of the wheel. And the art is to get those rhythms right and to find something that works for you. If I'm like deeply stressed, I will do one of those breath of fires. You know, you just have to make sure that you've not cleaned the nostril out nicely. And then it's like that start with that, it's that out puff. And then you're sort of bobbing along, doing the short little breath. And after about 10 minutes, you'd hardly do 10 minutes of that, 30 seconds of that. Your diaphragm is exercised, your breath is shunted in and out, you're stimulated, you've drawn in lots of oxygen, you sort of come out of that and there's this buzz and you feel lovely, like you just float off into space somewhere. Those are nice little things to do. Sometimes you want that deep, powerful breath just to deeply over-oxygenate the body, to detox in a way. Again, things that you can play with. And then one needs to be in an eyes closed, mindful space in order to play with the numbers. That is not about progressing through the numbers to see if you can get to the end. We can all do that. I can rattle off my cell phone number in 5 seconds, but it's not about that. It's about imagining that these numbers, to understand where things are here, things are back to front. It's not about the numbers, it's about the gaps between the numbers. Imagine that the numbers are like pickets on a picket fence, and that you can just move those numbers apart, and that there's something magical that lies between those numbers. Now, that's just an imaginary thing. We've got no science for this. This plays around with that active imagination, and with the eyes closed, just maybe focusing attention on breath, sitting comfortably and silently for a bit, we can create that gap. And in a way, it's like pushing off from one shoreline and drifting in this very quiet, serene pond, this ocean of tranquility, until you bump up against the next number. And it's about how long can you stay in that space of nothingness to maybe, with a bit of luck, stop your mind from wandering. It gives a single point of focus to the mind. And if you're somewhere in a space and mind starts to engage in thoughts, just go back to the beginning. There's not a competition. We just start again, and we capture the mind, and we go from that number back to the next, and we try this again and again and again, until someday, somewhere in the future, you might be able to master going through all 10 digits of your cell phone number, really taking a lot of time and being tranquil with a stillness of mind in those gaps between. I don't know if that answers some of what you asked.
Yeah, no, it does. Thanks, Tom. And there's been quite a few comments here from people about that was really relaxing, and I enjoyed it so much and feeling very, very relaxed now. And Anna also saying we'll use this technique to help sleep, like as you noted, that particular one. You know, some similar comment to myself saying, yeah, thoughts intruding, but as you noted, it's not a competition. We just got to just do it. And on that, is it something you would do every day? It's like a daily thing. You find a good time to do it, and then what is the best time? Is the next kind of question.
Okay, so Pete, we all have very stressful lives, and competition time is something that's competed for. So there's no real good time for this. So what my suggestion is instead of trying to find like my me time, which is this chunk of time of half an hour or more, just take a minute and just somewhere, just shut things down for a bit and just go into that space. It's easier to do at home, and than it would be at BB&D offices, because there's a lot of activity around. But you know, I sometimes just, when I'm pulling in at a shop and I'm about to go into the shop, just before I go in there, I do a mini reboot. This is what this is really. It's a little mini reboot. I just stop for a bit, center myself, take a couple of breaths. I can do that easily in the car before I, you know, a minute. And then I get out of the car and I go about my business. If something's rattled my cage, I'll find the next opportune moment just to do it again. If we're in spaces, public spaces, where it's kind of impossible to do this, then going to the loo is always your friend, because you can always find a cubicle, close the door, put the seat cover down, sit on the loo, and just focus. Prepare yourself, reorientate your mind, take control of your being, and then back out to do what you need to do.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think
it's also worth saying that I almost expected there to be an element of failure. I don't want to really use that word here because it's not failure, but it's in an unusual context. It is in an unusual setting. You'll find that when you can control the setting and when you have control over the time a little bit better than we are on this forum, that this will work much better. I urge you just to do it again and again. I'm going to re-listen to this, and if this tape doesn't, if this recording of this video doesn't really work, I would rather than just tweak this a bit, I record it on an MP3 and give it back for people just to use at their leisure.
I think that's a great idea, because then it's just because it was all about, you don't need your eyes, as you said. It's one of the senses you can shut down. Yeah, and it's interesting that, I mean, you know, certainly when I was a kid and I heard about this thing called meditation, I thought, wow, it's like a really mystical thing, and I'll never be able to do that, because it's you know, it's for advanced kind of mystics and spiritual people, and that's not me. So you know, this thing that was not attainable. But in fact, what this is just a basic technique to meditate, albeit for initially very short times.
Yeah, and I really don't want it to be connected with anything mystical, because if it's going to be linked to something mystical, I might not want to be associated with that philosophy or that ideology. I might, but I might also not want to be. It may cut across some other belief systems of mine. It's got nothing to do with any of those. I know that the word meditation and the techniques of meditation have come from Eastern yogic practices. And so very often they get tainted with those ideas of being a spiritual thing. This is not. This is pure neuroscience. And you'll find that on the shelves in the neuroscience sections of bookshops, or in the self-help sections of bookshops, you'll find books on mindfulness, which is really being embraced by science and psychology very much in the modern world because of its benefits, and has been decoupled from some of those ancient practices. Not that I'm poo-pooing those ancient things, but there's a place for them. But this that I've distilled today has got zero to do with those ancient practices, and much more to do with the psychology and the science that we were talking about before.
Great. Well, I think, thank you very much. There's been a lot of thanks and a lot of messages here saying you enjoyed it, and thanks to you, Tom. So thank you for your time and for taking some time to teach us, and I'm sure we'll practice. Those who've attended this will be practicing and stealing that minute in the car, wherever it might be that it's suitable. So it was some good tips on how to utilize that time. And yeah, so we look forward to the next session. We're keeping it practical, as I understand. Have you got any ideas yet of where we're going, or would you want to keep us and surprise us with that?
No, it's we've between Sonia and Anna and myself, we've come up with a list of really core issues that most people might be experiencing in the workplace, and certainly in the workplace at home under lockdown. So we're going to choose another one from that list, and I believe also it's expedient to move these sessions slightly further apart. So we're going to do them about once every 3 to 4 weeks, So Sonia and her team will certainly inform everyone of the topic of the next one, which we'll decide this during the course of this week, and then we'll put that out to everybody.
Set it up, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Great, so then I think just in closing, Rachel's comment, which I think is useful, speaks about the fact that one of the things that she's noticed is gaining control involves a bit of surrendering, which can seem counterintuitive at first. And that instead of calling meditation, calling it mindfulness is quite helpful, which you just noted as well. So yeah, so I think there's a clear understanding. So thank you for your lesson and your teaching. And we'll chat again soon and get healthy. I know you've been through an op, so get healthy.
I was very touched and moved by the gifts and the notes of kindness from BB&D. The heart op went very well. I'm fit. I'm up and about. It's one of these sort of walk-out surgeries with a piece of spaghetti up through the groin into the heart. But it all went well, and all's good. I got more life.
I think you're downplaying a bit, but yeah, I'm glad you're getting strong. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for attending. And we'll see you guys again soon. Thank you very much.
Ciao. Bye.
All right.